And then today, I'm going to introduce comma punctuation. So that means you can also practice between now and Tuesday on 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, because they all deal with comma punctuation that I'm going to talk about today. Okay? And if you spend up to an hour working on the grammar worksheet, I think that that would be a good thing. Although I cannot imagine taking productively more than an hour to practice, those things. And it's not like you're never going to get a shot to fix those again. The point of practicing that is that then you'll get confused again, which is great, because then you'll come to class on Tuesday asking questions about, I don't know, I got really confused about 15, and then we can do it together. And then you'll really get it, because you'll already wrestled with it. So, comma punctuation. Comma use. And here's the thing about commas. First of all, I can already know this. I'll confirm this by looking at your writing samples, but I think I already know. Gesundheit. I'll bet, my over-under bet is that 80%, taking everyone together in this room, that 80% of the grammar errors I'm going to see in this first writing sample are going to be either run-on sentence or comma splice. There'll be a sprinkle of some other things, but 4 out of 5 will be you screwed up with comma punctuation. And that's fine. Actually, that's a really good thing. Because if there's anything that you'll have a shot at being able to fix yourself, it's comma punctuation. Because you got 3 strategies. The first strategy is use simpler sentences. That'll fix it. The second strategy is use the one concept and the 3 rules that I'm going to present today. And then the third strategy is work ahead so that you can get help from someone else without inconveniencing them. It's always, you don't have to be able to fix it yourself. If you work ahead, you got plenty of time to get help. So don't be depressed if you're like, oh man, he's talking about me. It's okay. We can fix it. Like Spicoli, we can fix it. So here's the concept. Do they still do conjunction, junction? Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Right, that's still okay. Awesome. Thank you, Fraggle Rock, for being timeless. We got a touchstone. And it's got the rail cars, Right, exactly. Here's where I think the cartoon screwed up. I think that they should have used the rail cars as the rail cars are the phrases, right? Because I think they use the rail cars as symbolizing the words, right? Don't they? Or is it been too long since I've seen it? Do they use the rail cars to symbolize phrases? You should go look. Because the secret sauce that I'm going to introduce to you today for fixing comma splices and run-ons is Fraggle Rock. Who knew? So anyway, imagine that the cartoon used rail cars to symbolize here are groups of words that are a phrase. Or they use little teeny rail cars to symbolize here are conjunctions. Those conjunction, junction, what's those little things that hold them together? Okay. So there's 2 kinds of phrases. Independent or dependent? Jack defeated the evil president. Could that stand alone as a sentence? Yeah. If you're not sure, here's how you can confirm it. What's the action in that maybe sentence? Defeated. Okay, so it has an action. Who's doing the defeating? So it's got a subject. What's being defeated? The evil president. What's the definition of a simple sentence, of a grammatically simple sentence?
Subject.
So not only is it a complete sentence, we even know what kind it is. It's a grammatically simple, complete sentence. Beautiful. This one. With bullets and grape jelly. Fragment, or a dependent clause. Right? With bullets and grape jelly. And again, if you don't hear that, then you can also just say, well, where's the verb? Well, maybe it's with. Where's the subject? I don't know. We can't have a sentence without a subject. That's right out. How's about this? Imagine that there was no period here and that this was not capitalized. Jack defeated the evil president with bullets and grape jelly. Does that sound okay? Yeah. Because here's what the dependent clause is doing if you put them together. Well, first of all, I'll tell you why they're called what they are. Independent clause, well, that's pretty clear why it's called independent. It can't exist on its own. It's independent. It's a nice, healthy clause. If it's in a relationship with other clauses, that's because it chooses to be. Dependent clauses, you have friends that you know who I'm talking about, right? Dependent clauses are the, I'm dependent. What happens to that person if you take away the hopefully independent person that they glommed onto? They're dependent. They can't stand on their own. That's why they're called dependent. So you didn't know that these terms actually came from somewhere, right? So anyway, if you're one of the lucky people that can naturally hear the difference between them, good on you. If you're not, you have two choices for trying to spot the difference on your own still. The first is to go through the well, let's look for the action, let's look for, but that can be a little bit laborious. The other option is use a trick. Put "I can't believe that" in front of the phrase that you're having trouble hearing. For most people, the phrase "I can't believe that" will make it either sound more independent, if it's independent to begin with, or more deep. It'll make it sound more like it is, more like what it is. So, even though the hike was 10 miles, most people can hear the difference, not everybody. But I can't believe that even though the hike was 10 miles, now it sounds even more, right? For most people. Doesn't work for everybody, but it's a shot. Jack finished in an hour. I can't believe that Jack finished in an hour. For most people, that makes it sound even more independent. Okay. So that's just a trick. Anyway. So that's the skill. Being able to look at a sentence and decide, okay, how many clauses do I have in this sentence and what kind? And that takes practice, and it takes sometimes judgment too, but that's why we'll practice it. And that's why we'll also practice in complicated cases where it's like, well, we could look at it this way or we could analyze it that way, but fundamentally it comes down to looking at a sentence not as individual words, but instead groups of words that are clauses. Again, train cars. Here's a big train car, it's got maybe some cows or something in it that are the words, but the whole train car is the phrase. Right? Okay, now here are the rules. This is a confusing way to write out the rules. This is for most people, much simpler visual way to express the rules. If you've got a dependent clause in front of an independent clause, you have to have a comma separating the dependent clause to show where the main thought starts. That's the rule. So if I say, even though the hike was 10 miles, Jack finished in an hour. If there's no comma there, that's a run-on sentence. Because even though the hike was 10 miles, we've already established that's a dependent clause. And Jack finished in an hour, that's an independent clause. So you have to show the reader where the break is. And what that does is it helps people skim. Because if someone is like, I just want to get to the point, I only have 2 seconds to skim this memo, if they start reading a sentence, that's not the main point, they just look for the comma, boom, and then start reading carefully from there. That's why there's a comma there, why it has to be there. Okay. On the other hand, if I say, Jack finished in an hour even though the hike was 10 miles, no comma, because I put the dependent clause at the end. And again, it makes sense if you think about, well, what does a comma do? There's no need to put a comma there to help people skim, because if you put the main thought first, then they can they can make their own decision about when to stop reading. Oh, I got the main point now, Jack finished in an hour. Now I'll just skip to the next sentence. That's why the rule works. And then, independent clause. You got two of those together, you need a comma and a conjunction. If you only have a comma, that's a comma splice. If you don't have anything, that's a bad run-on. And that usually results from essay writing style where, and here's another thing, and here's another thing, and here's another thing, and here's another thing, and before the end of the sentence, you've got like 3 or 4 independent clauses all jammed together with like nothing. But that's it. That's the rules. That's all of them. So like if you can Fraggle Rock it to recognize the difference between this and this, and you can keep 3 rules in your head. You don't even have to keep them in your head. Just print this out, shrink it down, print it out, laminate it, keep it in your wallet. Then anytime you have to like, you know, oh, I got to edit my stuff for, bring it out. It's, okay. Don't even have to memorize it. So there you go. So let's practice. Let's start at that top one. Unfortunately, the whiteboard doesn't, I don't know. Let's do this one. High-tech institution. Right, makes sense. Okay, so the student will be working 9 years from now, and the student will be very happy. Start small. The student. Is that a complete sentence? No. The student will. The student will be. Well, unless you're Shakespeare, it's not a complete sentence. How's about the student will be working? There we go. The student will be working. What kind of a clause is that? Yeah, because it can't stand alone, so it's an independent clause. Okay. 9 years from now. I can't believe that 9 years from now. And the reason why I looked at just this is because this and, I mean, what's the classic use of and? Yeah, conjunction. When you see and, when do you use and that you're not using it as a conjunction? Maybe the only other time is when it's in a list, right? Blah, 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 and. So it's either a list, it's not a list, or it's a conjunction. Okay, so that means there's probably something that ends right before there. So, 9 years from now, dependent clause. And. What is that? It's a conjunction, and here's something to think about. It's also basically an itty-bitty dependent clause. That's why if I'm writing a sentence where, for some reason, for effect, because I want to show contrast, I would say, however, the student is very happy. Do I need a comma in that sentence? However, the student is very happy. What do you think?
Need a comma.
Where?
After however.
Why?
Because however is dependent.
Because in that sentence, however is acting as a little teeny dependent clause. It's just one word, but that doesn't mean it can't be a clause by itself. It's a dependent clause. So arguably, if I'm a tech comm writer, I could get away with, the student is very happy, however. If I'm thinking of however as well, that's just a dependent clause. Throw it at the end, no comma. Put it at the beginning, need a comma. But anyway, the student will be very happy. The student will be very happy. Look at that, on cue. That's a clause, it's an independent clause. It can stand alone, right? Okay, so now here's the thing. Forget the words. Markers suck in this building too. Ah, there we go. A little bit better. Forget the words. Just Just look at the rail cars. What do we have here? Independent, dependent, conjunction, independent. Okay, what are the rules? What do we do when we have a dependent clause that comes after an independent clause? No comma. So better not put a comma there. Okay, and then we've got, therefore, if we're saying, so this whole thing can stand alone and is grammatically correct, then you can also look at these two cars combined together as one independent clause now, right? The student will be working 9 years from now. That can stand alone. It's a group of words. The definition of a group of words that can stand alone is an independent clause. Now, we've got, so look, we've simplified the situation even further. We've got an independent clause and another independent clause. What's the rule?
Comma, conjunction.
Comma, conjunction. We've already got a conjunction there, so boom, comma, done, drop mic, it's fixed. There you go. Also, looking at it this way opens up the, what other things can we do? How else could we have fixed this train wreck?
Can I just say the sentence? Or, sorry, go ahead.
The student will be working 9 years from now and be very happy.
Okay, maybe we do that. Drop the very though. How about this? The student will be working 9 years from now. Period. You just said a sentence. Don't be shy. End it with a period. The student will be very happy. Period. That's another statement of fact. If you want to show the relationship between the two, say, the student will be working 9 years from now. Period. The student will also be very happy. Period. Or, the student will be working 9 years from now. Period. Working will make the student very happy. Now you have two simple sentences, and you've also made the thought you're expressing way more clear. Like, why is the student happy?
Kind of change the meaning
Well, why is the student very happy? Is it because the student is working?
though. Well, it's not explicitly stated that he's happy.
I know. So what if that is what we're trying to explicitly communicate?
Then what you just said would be that.
There you go. And what's the easiest way to make that clear? To somehow shoehorn it all into one sentence, or to just make it two sentences, parentheses?
You could say because the student will be working from now, they're very happy. Or you could say
Or you make two sentences. And then also, do you have to like bother with this whole comma stuff at all if you use two sentences?
no.
There you go. So, anyway, but we're out of time. Sorry if I went a few minutes over, but I anticipated that folks might want to wait this out anyway. If you got one-on-one questions for me, let me know. I'll be around for another 10, 15 minutes or till whenever the rain stops, since I was super brilliant and rode my bike in a $500 suit. So there's that. So let me know if there's anything I can help you with. Otherwise, I'll see you on Tuesday. Remember, spend an hour working on the parts of the grammar worksheet that we've covered. Spend 2 hours or less working on the next homework assignment. Don't overwork.